Shalom, everyone. Good Erev Tu B'Shvat. I'd like to prepare you for the Tu B'Shvat experience tonight. Tu B'Shvat is a sensory experience. It's a chance to enjoy your kesher with Hashem via the physical pleasures. And it is a food gratitude meditation, and it's really a great experience in his kashrus to Hashem, to connect. So I'd like to do some lamaisa work with you today, and get you in the frame of mind that will give you the access to this kind of direct hitkashrut, direct hiskashrus to Hashem. So let's start with time. You have the future, you have the present, and you have the past, okay? Future hasn't happened yet, present, and past. Again, future, present, it's happening right now. And in a way you could say that the future is coming into this present moment. So the future is feeding the moment, and then it's moving directly into the past. If we're like a document printer, so the future would be the blank paper, and then the blank paper is feeding into the printer, and then in this moment is the inkjet, now, meaning the present, is where the inkjet hits the paper, and then it's moving out through a shredder. Isn't it? I mean, can someone show me yesterday? How about a week ago, last year? It's gone. It's through the shredder. The future, it's blank paper. We don't know what will be there. Hashem knows. We don't know. And also, an infinite being can create it in infinite ways. So it's really blank paper for us. And as it hits, that's right now. And then it moves out the shredder. But literally into a shredder. That's the scary thing about Hashem on Rosh Hashanah when we do Zichronos, is that Hashem is the only being in the world that can recreate a shredded document. And meaning there's no shichacha, there's no forgetfulness by Hashem. But for us, who even knows, where were you 24 hours ago? I mean, you'd have to like rack your brain just to figure out where you were. Of course, 24 hours ago, everything seemed really important. But it's lost all its importance at this point, because now you're here. I have a nice saying is that today, right now, today is the day you were worrying about yesterday. And so far, so good. So why would you possibly worry about tomorrow? Because when you get to tomorrow, then you'll be in that day. The Gemara in Ksuvos, Daf Kuf Amud Beis, it says, Al tatzir tzaras machar. Don't have the tsar. You know what they have the term? There's a term in Chazal for anxiety. It's called tsarat machar. Tsaras machar. It's amazing. Like, have you ever heard such a term? Tsaras machar. Tsaras machar is us anticipating the future. In other words, not really being here, but projecting ourselves into the future. You see, right here, you can be totally okay, because whatever problem you have right now, you can deal with. But all the problems we anticipate, well, there's probably, for any of us, in a given week, we probably have like multiple things we have to deal with. In a month, even more. And if you have a simcha coming or some other event or flight and you got to go somewhere, there's many more things you're going to have to contend with. And what happens is when we try to deal with all that now, which is what we do when we anticipate, so that we cannot deal with. And that's what causes the increase in heart rate, the increase in blood pressure, the stress, the shortness of breath, what's called anxiety, tsaras machar. See, right in this moment, you can deal with whatever comes, and you do. You do deal with whatever comes. I mean, I've been in all kinds of uncomfortable experiences. You know, I had an MRI. I mean, anyone want to be inside a giant tube? Hold still, you know, and you're in this giant tube that's going like clank, 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 clank. For like 45 minutes. But right there you can deal with it. When you're in that moment, there's nothing you can't deal with in the moment. The problem is when we project ourselves into the future, and there's a lot of moments that we'll be dealing with, and they all seem to hit you right at once when you're thinking about them. And therefore, our access is to be right here and right now. Because the future is really, we don't know what will be there. Everything's going out of shredder. Now we say every day that Hashem is mechadish b'tuva b'chol yom tamid ma'asav v'reishis, that Hashem is creating at all times now. God doesn't do time. Think about it. The Creator's creating creation, yesh ma'ayin. He's creating it something from nothing at all times. From our perspective, because that's happening at all times, it looks linear. You understand that it's only from our perspective that there's such a thing as linear time. But in the emes of emes, in the truth of all truths, that God's creating every moment, it just appears to us linearly because lots of moments put together comes out to be a linear time. But we are emunim b'nei ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. And our emunah is in Hashem. That's where that's where our stake is. We've driven that stake into our emunah, and part of our emunah, and a major part of our emunah, is that life is just a constant occurrence of now. It's a constant now. That's what's going on. Now you have a whole other part of your brain. It's called the left side of the brain, or bina, not to be confused with bina yasera. That's instinct or intuition. We're talking about bina is the left brain. It's the analytical brain. And the analytical brain is busy doing analysis, and it's certainly analyzing the future. It is analyzing the past. If you look at it really, it's everywhere but here. The left brain, the analytical brain, is everywhere but here. And for example, let me give you an example that every situation you get into, like for example, you all walked in here, which is a social situation. And you're also in a learning situation, so you're wondering maybe perhaps about your intellectual ability to comprehend what is being said and the volume of what is being said, because it's teacher after teacher. And so there's a lot going on. And you're, of course, anticipating all this and also calculating as things come your way. You're in calculation of how you're going to deal with that. Now, what do you look at? What's your criteria for everything coming your way? What's the criteria? The criteria is the past, meaning every situation you've ever had in the past that might have been an embarrassing situation socially. There might have been an inability, meaning I wasn't capable of that particular subject matter. So you're in a social situation, but you're also in a learning situation. So there's both how you do socially, and there's also how you do as far as your own abilities, capabilities. And so what will happen is I will be anticipating and calculating with my left brain, my analytical brain. I'm anticipating and calculating what's coming. Based on which criteria? Things that might have happened in the past, situations in the past, embarrassments, lacks of, failures I've had in separate, different subjects. And so what happens is that calculating mind, that left brain of ours, the Bina side of the brain, is going to hijack your experience of the actual experience, which is right here, right now, always has been. That's all there ever was. Has there ever been anything but now in your life? There's only been now. It's a constant succession of nows. It doesn't require any calculation. Calculation is what fruits we'll be eating tonight. Like my house already has about 2,000 shekels worth of exotic fruit. And I saw it on my dining room table on my way out this morning. There's a lot of calculating that's going on for our Tu B'Shvat Seder tonight. So we're doing it. We use the analytical brain. I have travels. I'll be teaching in different cities, different countries. And I got to calculate that stuff. And my secretary tries to like pull me over and say, Rabbi, you have to make some decisions. And of course she knows I'm always living in this succession of moments because that's where life occurs. And I want to be where life occurs. This is my life. I don't have another life. And I refuse to throw myself into the future. And I'm certainly not going to use criteria of the past to have my future calculations take place because the past already happened. It went through the shredder. And the future hasn't happened yet. So I'm not going to be playing that game when life occurs here. I want to be totally present for what's happening right here, right now. Totally present. So let's practice together to be in the moment. Well, you know what? I'll give us another minute. I'll share a little more. I want to bring in Hashem now. I did already, but even stronger. Is God aware? I'm going to ask you two questions. Number one, is God aware of past, present, and future? Is God aware of past, present, and future? For sure. God's way beyond space and time. God's creating space and time. So God is totally aware of past, present, and future. Now, I'm going to ask you a trick question. And the trick question is God creating, here's the trick part, right now, past, present, and future? Don't nod so quickly. If you're nodding, your head's moving the wrong direction. I'll do it again. Listen to the hint. Is God creating right now, past, present, and future? For sure not. What is God creating right now? Right now. What God's creating right now is right now. Is God creating 1,000 years ago? 1,000 years from now? A year ago? A year from now? An hour ago? An hour from now? A minute ago? A minute from now? A second ago? Second ago? Where is God? What is the USB cable interface between God and creation? Where is that? Right here and when? Right now. This is the unfolding of God into creation because every successive moment is an unfolding of infinite into finite. What is this moment? This moment can only be the unfolding of infinite into finite. There's nothing in a minute ago in this pillar, for example, there's nothing in this pillar that could ever create a pillar now. You get that? Like nothing in creation has enough power to create itself another minute later. There's nothing in this pillar from a minute ago that could ever make this pillar now. It's just a pillar. It can only be in existence if God wills it into existence. Now, that's what's actually happening. So for all of us, every one of us, like our deepest desire, if you think about it, is really to have a God experience. That's our deepest desire. Our deepest desire is God experience. If you could wake up every day and have a God experience, that was your greatest day of the week, for sure. You wouldn't have had a greater day than a day where you had a God experience. It's your deepest desire. It's like a flame on a candle. If you think about a flame on a candle, it's almost suicidal because the flame is pining upwards. It's yearning upwards. Like as the Kabbalists say, it's trying to reunite with its source, the flame. So it's stretching itself, trying to jump beyond the wick. But what if it actually succeeded to rise? What would happen? It would go out. And this is all of our desire. I remember one time I came to my son's room. I heard him in his room yelling. So I go into the room. He's jumping on his bed as high as he can, and he's yelling, "Take me, take me, take me." And I go in there, and I'm like, he's like 6 years old, 5 years old. And I said, what are you doing? He says, I want Hashem to take me. And I said, why? He says, because from the bedtime stories, it sounds much better there than it does here. I tell my kids very Kabbalistic bedtime stories. Yeah, feel free to try that. Anyway, so I said to him, you don't want Hashem to take you. And he says, why? I said, you're not even bar mitzvah. You're going to show up empty-handed. You got to get bar mitzvah and start doing mitzvahs. When he takes you, you got to show up with something. And he said, don't take me. And then he just waited for his bar mitzvah, to start filling up his pockets with mitzvahs. and still does, Baruch Hashem. And, now he's 20 years old. Anyway, there's nothing like the God experience. I mean, that's the goal, isn't it? Isn't that the goal? The God experience? Right? I tell these birthright kids, I said, when you were on the airplane and someone says, oh, you're going to Israel, yeah. And if someone said to you, oh, you're seeking a God experience, they would say, no, I'm just on birthright. I'm going for a God experience. A God experience is really what we want. Well, ladies, think about it for a moment. What is this moment? What is this moment? What is this moment? It is the God experience. You're right now in the God experience because God's unfolding from infinite into finite now. So this is the God experience. Yes, except when your left brain, that calculating brain, that's constantly projecting itself into the future based on criteria of the past, hijacks you. It's very important, that part of the brain. We all have a lot of cheshbonos to make Erev Shabbos and things we got to plan. And we use the brain. We do employ the tool. But too often, when we're not paying attention, it takes away our access to now. The God experience is right here, right now. It's happening right here, all around us, always. Right here, right now. The spiritual person, let me say in a principle, the spiritual person sensitizes herself to the subtlety of God in the moment. I'm going to say that again. The spiritual person sensitizes herself to the subtlety of God in the moment. You don't have to be that spiritual to have one of those hit you in the face spiritual moments, like the ones that just like some amazing tefillah you might have had at the kotel, or your Yom HaChuppah of your children, and you're under the chuppah with your kids, and it's like, those ones, you don't have to be spiritual to get it. I'm talking about spiritual people sensitized. She's someone who is sensitized to this subtlety of God in the moment. And whatever is happening in that moment is the will and wisdom of God unfolding now. That is spirituality. Is being connected right here, right now, because this is the USB cable. This is the interface of God and creation right here, right now. Boring? Well, compared to a chuppah, perhaps. But when you've sensitized yourself to that subtle experience of the flow of God into creation, when you sensitize yourself to that, it's not boring. It is subtle, but it's special. So let's practice together. If anyone has fingers free, some of you are holding pens, so at least get one hand free, but I prefer two hands free. What we're going to do is we're going to snap together at the same time. We're going to snap on three, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then we're all going to give a snap, and we're just going to really be here. Really be here, totally. And just to prepare you a bit have you ever heard the voice inside your head? You ever heard the voice in your head? Let's take a moment right now and everyone just listen to the voice in your head for a moment. Voice in my head? What voice what's he talking about, a voice in my head? That's the voice in your head. Okay, let's try again. Listen to the voice in your head. It's a constant. Listen to it. Okay, now we're going to go with quiet. We're going to snap, okay? On 3, 1, 2, 3, snap, and then a big breath. 1, 2, 3. open your eyes if they were closed. We're going to now, this time I'm going to close my eyes. I never ask a group to close their eyes unless mine are also. We're going to do it again. This time we're going to close our eyes. After the snap, we'll take a deep breath with our eyes closed, and then we're going to open them after a moment. I'll say when to open them. And check out how present this entire room can become. And not only how present, but once you're in that unfolding state of God into creation, what happens is that consciousness, well, I'll speak about it in a minute. Let's do it first with the eyes closed. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Inhale, eyes closed. Focus your energy maybe to the front of your forehead, between your eyebrows. You can open your eyes. And you'll see it's just as good with the eyes open, if not even better. The reason we close our eyes is because the stimulation of the nerves in the eye, that stimulation's happening at the speed of light. It's super stimulating, and it can also be overwhelming. But it works perfectly with this same level of consciousness of God's creation. Now, staying present in this moment, realizing that you are a human being. The human part I see, and here's mine. This is the human part, the physical. But what's the being? You realize you have a being that's here right now? There's a being here. It's your being. There's an I you have, a point of reference that's not physical. It would never show up in an MRI. Even my words I'm speaking right now, am I speaking English? Is this English? Not really. It's vibrational energy going across the room. For example, if this is an A, so that's 440 oscillations per second shooting across the room. While I'm speaking, there's really a little monkey playing drums on your eardrum. And with incredibly sophisticated mathematical equations, the eardrum's picking up. It's a tympanic membrane. It's picking up vibrational math. That math moves up the audio nerves into the cerebral cortex, which is packed with billions of neurons. Now, neurons either fire or don't fire, which is binary, ones and zeros. It's digital. And it matches every bit of the math with every time you've ever heard English. And in real time, telling you you're hearing English right now. That's your brain. But who is the brain reporting to? It's reporting to you. But you're not in there. You're not your brain. You're certainly not a neuron. That when we say an bracha, umafli la'asos, at the end of Asher Yatzar, you know what those words are? Umafli, from Lashon Pela, la'asos, acts. God acts wondrously. What's the wonder? When you click on the word mafli la'asos, it takes you to the website on Asher Yatzar, and those two words mean that the wondrous act is that your soul hangs around your body, because it's not physical. How do you have a spiritual thing hanging around a physical body? So the presence of being in this moment where your mind is quiet is your being. It's your neshama. When I have kids at Eish HaTorah come up to me and say, Rabbi, how do I know I have a soul? So I say to them, you use the word I twice there. So you're clearly in touch with it. Because the I is the soul. It's not your flesh. It's not neurons firing or not firing. The I is the soul. Your actual identity is your soul. Now, the self-image, that's not the soul. Your self-image is very far from the soul. The self-image is a protective layer that we've put on to, based on childhood stuff that we went through. But the soul has no self-image. And it has everything in common with the woman sitting next to you. It's part of all of Nishmas Yisrael. It's part of Hashem. It's Chelek Elokah Mimal. It's always present. It never has a problem. Think about it. Anyone have a problem right now? Does anyone have a problem right now? Can you imagine your life with no problems? But think about it. Think about it. Right now, there is no problem. Even if you have a health thing that you're dealing with, you're not dealing with it right now, are you? No. So there's no problem right now. And that's what I was saying before, is now there's no issue that you can't deal with. Now, if you were getting blood tests right now, so now you'd have someone poking you. And you'd be dealing with that. But being poked now, I can handle. Thinking about all the poking, that when someone has to actually go in the hospital, and there's going to be a lot of poking going on, a whole lot of poking going on. So that can be overwhelming and create anxiety. But at any one poke is now, and that I can deal with. There's no problem here. When's the last time you had no problem? When's the last time you had no problems? And right now, you could have a problem right now with the position you're sitting in, but switch positions. You could have a problem with the air temperature in this room. So ask the organizer to turn it up or down, and don't do that, because as I've noticed when I speak to women's groups, every third woman is a different temperature. I always, when I run my seminars, a woman always raises her hand, Rabbi, it's boiling in here. And so I don't exactly run to the AC system to turn up the cold yet, because all I have to do is wait for like 3 seconds till a woman says, I'm freezing. And I'm like, okay, who's hot? Who's cold? And then I say, we're just going to leave. We're just leaving it. There's no way to deal with this. Now, in this moment, the temperature is exactly what it is and exactly what it's not, right or wrong. It's exactly what it is, right or not. You want to complain about that? It's exactly what it is. Your mother is exactly who she is, and she is exactly not exactly who she is exactly not. Right? Is your mother exactly not? And for those whose mothers are no longer with us, you can just have her be with you right now. She's exactly who she is, and she's exactly not who she's exactly not. That's the mother you got. What does that mean? Meaning our complaint about our mother is just our complaint. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't make anything go away. It doesn't make anything get better. All it does is put a wedge between us and her. But when I'm living in the unfolding of infinite into finite, which is our emunah, that is our emunah, is the unfolding. So when I'm living in that unfolding, so I'm totally at peace with what my mother is and is not, because that's who she is now. That's she made her, and she may grow, she may change, she may, Bezrat Hashem. But until then, I'm connecting as she is now. So if your father, for example, or your kid, for example, or your husband, or anyone has just a way they always interact, well, that's the way they interact. And so they probably love you. And so why don't you just translate the words that they're saying into I love you? My father loves giving me financial advice. A lot of financial advice, like maybe even only financial advice, but lots of it. And now he has a very creative son who's, more interested in like Kabbalah and like Torah study and meditation and intensive Karliner davening minions, and not so much Ready? Not so much on the numbers stuff. When my father speaks to me about money, all I hear is 3 words the whole entire time. I love you. I love you. I love you. That's all I hear. I mean, think about it. Has my father ever called you about your financials? No. Has he ever called you about your financials? My father calls any of you people? Why does this man in California keep calling me? Answer, he loves me. So I can make this, his way of communication, an issue. And I'm sure someone, I'm sure I could go cry it out in therapy and she would stamp that I'm right. I'd get the stamp. And many times I've been told, not by Torah observant people, that maybe you need a little separation. I don't know where it says that in the 10 Commandments about separating from your parents. But I was told that, and I've also did that in my past. That's not the commandment of honoring your mother and your father. And all of a sudden, when I translated his words into I love you, right here, right now, he's calling me because he loves me. His language of love is service, specifically financial advice. And what's happening now is he's showing me love. I'm going to translate it as love. Tonight we'll be experiencing taste. Our taste buds are going to be electrified by all kinds of fruits. Believe it or not, there's lots of laws of Shechianu. I'm not going to go into them right now, but there are laws that you just never realized regarding Shechianu. So I'm just going to let you know that your number one, if you're going shopping for Shechianus, so your number one best bet, without me going into any of the laws, is grapes this year. Okay, so get some grapes, and that should be your Shechianu, ideally. The other laws of Shechianus, it's just too complicated to deal with right now, but people are making Shechianus and stuff that do not get Shechianu. And so it really boils down to grapes. This year is the best. So when you're eating like star fruits and, here I go. Don't get me started. But people think, star fruit, that I for sure didn't have this season. Except it's always in season in the tropics. It doesn't have where it comes back into season. So you understand there's people are making Shechianus because they're just like, I never seen anything like this before. Shechianu, v'kiyamanu. But meanwhile, the thing's always in season because it was grown at the equator, okay, where they don't have seasons. Tonight your mouth will be experiencing exquisite moments. Close your eyes, breathe, experience, be there, snap your fingers, be there. Be in that experience, connected to Hashem. Hashem has lined your body with nerve endings, your whole entire body. And you can even get the pleasure of your clothing right now, just protecting you, keeping you warm. Your whole body's lined with nerve endings, the air on your skin, your optic nerves, your audio nerves, the taste buds, like major congregation of nerves, going right into your pleasure sensors. Your whole body's, God lined you with this. You are one big pleasure sensor. And connecting that pleasure with Kodesh Baruch Hu, who's unfolding himself into creation at all times, you put it all together, and what you have is really a direct hiskashrus, which are called yichudim, through the food that you'll eat, through these wondrous foods. And that's how you do a food meditation. I'm blessing everyone with continued growth, and simcha and hatzlocha. I'm on, for those who are on Torah Anytime, I'm on live every day at 3 p.m. Israel time. And I also often have third meals that are open. We have every week practically a musical Havdalah experience in our home. We live in Bate Broides in Yerushalayim here, Hanatziv 11. It's a shtetl near the Shuk. And I run women's seminars. You can look them up online, and it's called thepossibleU.org. The Possible You. I run a seminar called The Possible You. I'm running it for 16 years with over 5,000 graduates, and it's I just finished women's group. We just had 28 women graduating on this last Sunday. And the next men's group, Send Your Husbands, Sons. It's February 11th, 2 weeks, almost a little less than 2 weeks, with an introduction in Dushinsky next Thursday night. I'll be doing an intro with Chulent from Hadar Geula. Shalom, everyone. Atzlacha Rabba and Tu B'Shvat Sameach.